For the poster and the detail view controller, we'll use the same technique that we used to set the poster in our cell. Let's go back to the movies view controller and see what that looks like. So let's recap how we got the poster last time. We needed two things: the base URL, which remained constant for every poster, and the poster path, which was a specific string that we added onto the URL that got us that specific poster image. As is, this code isn't very safe. And the reason is this poster path right here, you can see we're using an exclamation point to unwrap that optional. Well, if for whatever reason there was no poster path available for that movie, when this goes to unwrap, it's going to return nil. And when you unwrap something that's nil, you're going to crash your app. In order to safely check it, we're going to use a syntax in Swift called if let. So we can say if let poster path equals movie poster path as string. Then we'll add these curly braces, and we'll take that one and put it down here. And now let's check this error message. It looks like it's going to be about this unwrapping here. And what it's telling us is that we cannot force unwrap a value of non-optional. Well, wait a second. I thought it was optional. Well, when we used this if-let syntax, we guaranteed that it would not be optional. So let's go ahead and delete this. Now that we've got this set up, let's look at the syntax one more time. What this is saying is if movie at poster path key as string is nil, then go ahead and skip everything that's in these curly braces and just go to return cell. So if this is nil, then none of this will be executed. In the case that this is not nil, meaning there is some value, that value will be assigned to poster path. And all the code within the curly braces will run using poster path, which we can now guarantee is not nil. Great, now that this is a little safer, let's go ahead and copy and paste this to our detail view controller. I'll go ahead and paste that right there. Now in our detail view controller, we're not going to be referencing the cell. And this poster image only works because I gave it the same name, and this poster image view only works because I happen to give it the exact same name in my detail view controller. See? Awesome, let's run it and see how it looks. Awesome, I can see my image view. Let's go ahead and fix this label, which is truncating our overview. If I click on the label in the storyboard and go to the attributes inspector over here, or the DJ slider, I have the option to set the number of lines. Now, if this is set to 0, what that means is use as many lines as you need. Awesome, now we're getting the full text and it's not truncating. Now, let's take a moment to recap all that we've learned. First, we talked about the different types of navigation. We have push navigation, which keeps a history of everywhere we go and allows us to retrace or go back through that history. We talked about tab navigation. Tab navigation is two independent channels of navigation that don't know anything about each other. We also talked about how it's common for each tab to use push navigation in order to have a history for each tab. The last navigation we talked about was modal navigation. Modal is like a lightbox effect, where something like a compose screen comes up and can be dismissed. The next thing we did was to implement push navigation in our app. We did that by going to our movie cell and control dragging from the movie cell in the document outline here to our detail view controller. Now for push navigation to work, you have to have a navigation controller. So after that, we selected our view controller and then we did an editor embed in navigation controller, which gave us this navigation controller. The next thing we did was handling cell selection. We did that in the prepare for segue method of our movies view controller. We figured out which cell was selected by referencing the sender, or the object that initiated the segue. Since in this case the sender was a table view cell, we cast it as a UI table view cell. Once we had that cell, we could get at the index path by running a method on the table view called index path for cell, where we give it a cell and it gives us an index path. After we had the index path, all we had to do was plug that in to our movies array to get out the particular movie we wanted. We also learned that you can hold Option, get this question mark, and click on an item to see what type it is. The final step was to pass data between view controllers. That also happened in the prepare for segue. We were able to reference the detail view controller because segues know where they're going to. So when we said segue.destination view controller, we then had a reference to our detail view controller. Now we needed to go further and actually set a property within that detail view controller. So we had to cast it as the specific type detail view controller, which was the custom class that we made. Once we had that set up, we could actually reference the movie property in our detail view controller and set it to the movie we had created here. When it came time to set the title and overview labels, as well as the image view, we did that here in the view did load, using the same technique where we use the title key in our movie dictionary in order to get out the title, which we cast into a string, and then set the text property of our title label to title. We did the exact same thing when we set the overview. Now when it came time to set our image, we got the same base URL, which we used for each image. And then we used the syntax if let to check if this movie at key poster path was nil or not. If it wasn't nil, meaning it contained a value, the poster path, then we took that poster path, combined it with the base URL, made a poster URL, which we were then able to use in our set image with URL method. I hope you enjoyed this video. In our next video, we'll make our detail view controller a little more interactive.